Hello, friend. I want to tell you about the car. It is still available in the showroom, but the secondary market is rich enough to easily buy a used model. The fourth generation Ford Mondeo enjoys huge interest, among others, due to its attractive appearance, but also its dimensions. After 4 years of production, so many cars have already been sold that it can be given its first rating. What is the Ford Mondeo IV? This is not a stupid question, as it may seem, because a thoroughly modernized, but still the same generation Focus Mach 3 appeared shortly before. Meanwhile, the fourth generation Ford Mondeo, designated by the company as Make V, is a completely new model compared to its predecessor, Make 4. It was built on the CD4 platform, which was used for the entire range of large models of the brand. These include the Galaxy and S-Max minivans, as well as the Edge SUV and American Lincolns. To a large extent, the technical and operational comments in this article also refer to the aforementioned cars. The car was introduced in 2012 on the American market as the Fusion, but it appeared in Europe in late 2014. It's worth knowing about it because there's no shortage of overseas cars on the secondary market. Stylistically, the Mondeo turned out to be a bullseye, often compared to the most beautiful in its class Mazda 6, as well as to the Mustang or Aston Martin. And rightly so, because in a vivid color, the Mondeo is really pretty, in contrast to the average and heavy-looking predecessor. And that is why many satisfied customers were happy to exchange their third-generation Mondeo for its successor. The new model received many new features that were not there before. First of all, electrical and electronic. The completely new cockpit was filled with buttons and a large multimedia screen, and the richer versions received Sony audio. On the instrument panel, only the tachometer and speedometer are analog, and everything else has become fully digital. The onboard computer menu looks impressive. Not everyone will like the automatic air conditioning control. Ford Mondeo 4th engine range. Mondeo IV is available in a total of 12 engine versions, but most used cars have 3 of them. Popular are the 1.5 EcoBoost petrol engines with 160 horsepower and the 2.0 TDCi diesels with 150 and 180 horsepower. The 2.0 EcoBoost versions, 203 and 240 horsepower, and hybrid models are in the minority. The Mondeo could also be bought with a tiny 1.0 EcoBoost engine with 125 horsepower and 1.5 and 1.6 TDCi diesels with 120 and 115 horsepower. Another interesting engine is the 209 horsepower bi-turbo diesel. Ford has now withdrawn from these engines. The American Fusion, with a 177 horsepower, 2.5-liter naturally aspirated engine paired with a classic automatic, is of great interest. When it comes to gearboxes, there are 2 types of automatics. The classic, with a converter, is connected to the 1.5 and 2.0 petrol engines, while the diesels are paired with the PowerShift dual-clutch automatic. 4-wheel drive is available only with the 150 and 180 horsepower diesels. The hybrid drive, however, is a completely different story. It is important to know that the Mondeo was not designed for this drive, but adapted, hence the small and difficult-to-position trunk of the sedan. The 187 horsepower drive consists of a naturally aspirated 2.0 petrol engine and an electric motor and ECVT gearbox. Which engine to choose for the Ford Mondeo 4? In principle, each of the most common ones is good, but for different drivers. In my opinion, the best choice is the 2.0 diesel with 180 horsepower. Dynamic and economical at the same time, and at the same time not causing any major problems. It fits the Mondeo better than smaller units, although they are also rated positively by both users and mechanics. Driving the car completely normally, you can count on fuel consumption at the level of 6 to 7 L, 100 kilometers. Another good option is the quite popular 1.5 EcoBoost. Fuel consumption of 8 to 9 L, 100 kilometers, and good dynamics make it an alternative for people who don't want diesel. However, it is not a simpler design, because this engine has both direct fuel injection and a turbocharger. An alternative to the 1.5 unit could be a 2-liter petrol, but here you should expect fuel consumption of around 10 L, 100 kilometers or more. The unit rewards you with great dynamics, and there are no bad reviews about it. However, before making a decision, it is worth driving the smaller 160 horsepower EcoBoost. It may be sufficient. To sum up, if you care about good performance above all, choose the 2.0 EcoBoost. If fuel consumption is important to you, but you don't want to give up dynamics, the 2.0 TDCi will be a better option. On the other hand, the 1.5 EcoBoost engine gives lower fuel consumption than the 2-liter, higher than diesel, but the large selection of cars for sale makes it worth taking an interest in. Mondeo Hybrid is also interesting. But that's not all. An interesting proposition is a rather rare hybrid, which is also a hybrid in a different context. It turns out that the drive architecture comes from Toyota, second-generation hybrid system, although Ford modified it by changing, among other things, the combustion engine. American fuel consumption tests indicate that this is a successful drive in this respect, although for a conservative driver, the operation of the continuously variable eCVT automatic may be a problem. By the way, the name sounds familiar, doesn't it? Due to the origin of at least part of this system, one can expect not only very high reliability, as is the case with hybrid Toyotas, but also potentially low repair costs. Buying a Mondeo hybrid is a lower risk than buying a hybrid car from a brand other than Toyota. The fact is that, as with all Toyotas, you either have to get used to this hybrid or like the specifics of its operation. The drive itself suits me very well because it gives performance and fuel consumption comparable to a 180 horsepower diesel with automatic transmission. Besides, in comparison with it, even the catalog performance is similar. In the Mondeo hybrid test, I achieved an average fuel consumption of about 5 L 100 kilometers with a relatively gentle drive. This is a great result compared to a diesel with automatic transmission, which burns an average of about 6 L 100 kilometers. What goes wrong in the Ford Mondeo IV? In principle, it can be assumed that a car does not break down, but rather suffers from childhood diseases or quality imperfections. The biggest problem of the model is the electrical system, although these are usually failures without any impact on mobility. Users most often complain about the operation of the air conditioning system, control, and temporary failures of the multimedia system or indicators. Serious components rarely break down, although there are cases of damage to the power steering, the electric parking brake system, or keyless access. There are also individual cases that lead to more serious failures. A technical bulletin has been issued for the Mondeo 2.0 TDCi, which includes information about the possibility of the oil pan cracking caused by engine overheating. The engine may have a tendency to overheat due to the poor operation of the controller. There are complaints about coolant disappearing from EcoBoost engines, minor oil leaks in 2.0 diesels, or joint damage. In turn, in 1.5 diesels, the head gasket may be damaged, but this only applies to intensive use. Power shift automatics are expensive to repair. In terms of quality, in many copies, the elements finished in piano black are already scratched, and some parts of the dashboard do not fit perfectly with the others. Sometimes there are creaks or uneven gaps between body elements in accident-free cars. Users also complain about the undurable paint coating, very susceptible to mechanical damage. Is it worth buying a Ford Mondeo IV? In practice, the Mondeo is no better than its competitors, but its advantages include a fresh and attractive appearance, as well as the technology of the best-equipped versions. The problem with most models is electrical faults. So on the other hand, the poorer the equipment, the fewer of them there may be. The hybrid version is definitely worth considering when buying a car for a longer period of time. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.